and welcome to ATN Sunday, everyone. And then ATN Sunday is a magazine show that touches on key issues. These issues are dissected by professionals and relevant stakeholders per time. On this segment of the show this morning is ATN Sunday Talk. Our first point of call is we're talking about November elections, where Governor Barrow said the PDP is not perturbed by Oko channels of the mass reconciliation. We'll go to Niger. New U.S. ambassador arrives in Niamey and will not present credentials. Niger coup ECOWAS in final effort at peaceful resolution with junta. And in Borno State, Repent and Boko Haram terrorists block Maiduguri Highway. Investigation panel, NBA plans to probe Unical's prof and defund others. On campaign, NDLA give reasons for choosing Naira Marley for the advocacy campaign. In Cross River State, Governor Otu promises to revamp sports infrastructure. This and many more conversations we're bringing your way this morning, and we have a renowned journalist in the east of the Niger. He is Pius Duko. He's also a civil society advocate. He's here this morning as a public affairs analyst to discuss issues in the news with us. But stay with us. We'll come back to you after the break. Welcome back to ATN Sunday, and I just want to quickly welcome a very own Pius Duko. Good to have you on ATN Sunday today.
Nice to be here one more time after a while. Vivian, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Pius. Let's start from Cross River State, if you may. So, Cross River State Governor Basi Otu says his administration would revamp the moribund sports sector by deliberately initiating bold steps needed to address the appalling infrastructural decay ravaging the sector in the state. According to Otu, drastic steps have become imperative in order to reposition the sector towards regaining the eroded glory of the state in the sporting arena. Senator Otu gave the assurance while he was speaking at the closing ceremony of the South-South Zonal Elimination Competition for team sports ahead of the National Youth Games slated for Delta State next month. He described it as devastating, the systematic decay which has engulfed the sector due to neglect and managerial incompetence given the caliber of those at the helm of affairs in recent times. Senator Otu, who was represented at the event by his special advisor on special duties, Barrister Basi Akiba, disclosed that Government, as a matter of urgency, is set to intervene in addressing the dilapidated sporting infrastructure as a major step in revamping the sector. In his remarks, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Sports and Cinematography, Dr. Okwendu Obaka, applauded the state government for the interest demonstrated towards the sporting sector. He described it as indicative of good things to come. All right. Now, these good things to come, we would like actually a situation where these good things to come stays longer than just in a person's tenure. But what I find, while I was looking at this news last night and even this morning, what I find disturbing is that infrastructure that is supposed to be money-making infrastructure is not just an infrastructure that is fanciful for maybe just for the aesthetics of the state, but in a country where the economy is struggling, where states are just dependent on the crude revenue from the federation accounts. Yet you have governors, educated men who ought to know better. They get into office. They clearly watch infrastructure built by maybe a previous administration go to waste, so not forgetting that this is actually an infrastructure that belongs to the people. At the rate with which we are going, and this is not just about Cross River State, you're also talking about the sports stadium in Cross River State, but this is a common practice. And then a lot of people will say, we don't have maintenance culture. Now, is this really about maintenance culture or the lack of the acumen to know what to do as a leader when you're in office?
Yeah, Vivian, if you look at that story very well, I was also have a mixed feeling. Why do I call it mixed feeling? Why the commissioner was thanking the governor. I was also discussing off camera with you that it's not a bad thing that the governor would put on the repairs of that stadium, the new governor, Governor Otu. However, with the fact that this stadium have been there for some time and there is a long time neglect, and then looking at what the governor also said in that statement, if you look at it very vividly, he talked about this with galvanized sporting event towards the Delta State competition that is coming very soon. And that is just next month. So I begin to get worried. Something that is, we're having competition in Delta State next month and you're repairing stadium this month.
No, he's not talking about repairing it this month. He's talking about bringing it back to life.
Yes, to life.
That's but he made that statement in a team meeting.
Yes.
What involved Cross Rivers, the sports event in Delta State.
Fine. Because there's a connectivity. I am repairing this thing, hoping that this thing will also help in the sports tournament that is coming up in Delta State.
But that's not realistic.
Yeah, so that is where I'm catching my statement from. That it's supposed not to be that because this time there is a tournament that is coming up. But naturally, if you repair a stadium, there's nothing bad for you not to repair a stadium. Because like what is eroding us in this part of the Niger Delta is that because of actually the oil money you're talking about, a lot of things have been neglected. I remember when I was a young person, very young, even though I'm still young, in Port Harcourt, what we call the Civic Center in Port Harcourt, you have different type of sports civic center, and they have been repairing it over time. I remember the former governor Odili repaired it because this stadium was built by the first military administrator, that is Spiff. Odili repaired it. I also know that former governor Wike also did some touches, because in that sports complex you have lawn tennis, table tennis, boxing tournament. But one thing I find it difficult to comprehend is the swimming pool side. The swimming pool side for over time have not been fixed. And then we used to go there and watch live boxing tournament where the people will pay money and it accrued resources to the state. I know that I watched a very powerful boxing tournament in those days, Smoking Jones. Those who are hearing me and you're from Port Harcourt, River State, you will know that in the 80s, Smoking Jones come to Civic Center Port Harcourt. Why am I relating to it? I'm doing that because if you repair stadium and it's holistic, it's going to galvanize the sports area where you have youth engaging in weightlifting, you have youth engaging in table tennis, lawn tennis, boxing, judo, wrestling, all manners. You know, and it helps to even revive and bring the youth back to reduce youth restiveness. Anyway, in case you ask me. So But I also want to find out how most of these complex and facilities are dilapidated. For example, let me situate it to sports now. I don't want to go into education. For example, the stadium in Gokana, the Gokana Sports Complex Stadium.
Gokana in Rivers State.
Yes, Rivers State. Gokana precisely. Former local government chairman before, Victor Jandom, built a sports complex. And I know that within that time, he used to make tournament whereby old Nigerian star Victor Ekweba, all of them, Yobo, will come to galvanize these younger ones. In fact, I have also been involved in doing commentaries in one of those sports there. But as I'm talking to you now, if I knew that I'm going to come here, I would have given you a snapshot of that.
Okay.
It's something that is, the comparison I can compare with it is like the house of Mobutu Sese Seko in Zaire, this abandoned house that is turned to, rat and nothing. The stadium has nothing to write home about. They vandalize, remove every aluminium, every zinc, every doors, every windows. And then you get to ask question, are there no security apparatus within that side? There's an army checkpoint close to in Kpo there. There's a police station in Kpo there. And then if you want to go out of Kpo to Tai Axis, you will also meet police people at the Tai Axis. There's a mini police station at Tai there. If you want to pass through Akwa Ibom State to go with those materials, you must intervene security agencies. So how come the whole stadium, was looted without any intervention? And that is why I am saying, now what Governor Otu is doing is not out of place. But if they can also have a monitoring and evaluation people who will disguise over time, because sometimes when you spend huge sum of money on government facilities, sometimes it may not be government itself. Most of their agencies will go and remove very costly materials. I remember sometimes government will supply generator. I remember in the days of Odili, Governor Odili gave us generator in my community, Bodo City. Not quite 2 weeks, somebody went there and looted one important item. Till today, we have not used that generator.
Okay, here is what I find really curious and disturbing at the same time. Now, we talked about the economic impact of a sports infrastructure, for instance.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know what to do, nobody says because you're a governor or because you're a local government chairman, you should know how to do everything. This is where the PPP arrangements comes in.
Yeah, that's
sporting is a big deal. It's a big money
spinning,
making a system in the world today. Now we have the Amosan girl, several Nigerians who are doing so well, both in soccer and in athletics and what have you. Look at the female basketball girls. Look at the soccer. There are several superheroes that we have come to get in sports today. There are several retired ones. We just talked about the Victor Ikpeba. We have the Joseph Yobo, who is from your place.
Yeah.
Now, if you put all of these together and ask yourself, can't a thinking governor give out these facilities? You talked about the Sharks football stadium. Growing up in Port Harcourt, this was a big deal. In fact, that was the city center.
Yeah.
Back in those days. Now, but that was during the King's Beef. If you look at all of these things and how much this can contribute to development and the IGR of a state, what would it be such a big deal? Let me put it across this way: if a governor decides to initiate a PPP arrangement to see how these things can be put into better use. There are betting companies, for instance. There are sporting companies who would want to use some of the Sharks football, for instance, were like one of the biggest, well-structured place you can think about. Why do you think they don't maximize the place of PPP, or even maybe selling it outright or what have you, to ensure that it comes back to life?
Yeah, I will agree with you on the PPP arrangements. However, on outright sales, sometimes when you sell it outright, the private owner will ought to maximize profit. And in maximizing profit, maybe get fees and other things that people were hitherto getting it at a low sum or free of charge sometimes. Because
but isn't it why that idea of because people get it free of charge, when we leave this country we pay for this same thing? Isn't this why these facilities are left in comatose, if you may?
Yeah, sometimes it's left in comatose, sometimes it's stolen just like the one I gave here in my local government, and then. But I agree with you on the PPP arrangements. However, sometimes when you now do outright sales, there is no way that will not inflate prices of things. Not every time that you come to sports arena that you pay. Some matches, some places they make it free of charge. They make it. I was a member of River State Football Association for 3 years, appointed during the Odile administration. I was also a member being elected, so at least 6 years I was there. So some matches we allow it open, they will not attract payment. What we are doing also to sponsor grassroots football so that people will maximize their talent. So, but what I'm saying is that if you make it outright sales, which is good too, unless you also look at, and then if you cannot control that private person because you got to recoup his money. In recouping his money, that is where sometimes you now see, for example, Yimba and Tornadoes is playing football match in Port Harcourt, and because of the fact that there's a private person that is own that stadium, he will say, okay, this match fee, gate fee will be 2,000, irrespective of whatever. And sometimes, because of that, a lot of people will not come and watch the match. Why? The guy places 2,000, or example 5,000 or 10,000. So that in the due course of time, he can recover the money
and he can also maintain the place.
And also to maintain the place. So it's part of it. So, but he has his own two sides of the coin. But I would love the PPP arrangement, which I think will also be much better. Because in that PPP arrangement, government representative will there and say, hey, this fees is much. Let us galvanize the process. And if, for example, government is too slow, the private person will engineer him to go right. Because one thing that we begin to lose somehow is that these sports people you have mentioned attain those stage privately.
Do you know, in River State alone, while you're talking about this, what's crossing my mind is the Amir Simeka
Stadium, yeah.
Sharks Football Stadium.
Yes.
The one in Liberations, the
Liberation
Stadium, the
Stadium.
Yakubu Stadium.
Yeah.
And these are just maybe 3 major ones in city center. And now these things are not, the money is not being made from these processes.
No.
They are just there.
In fact, it's there for political.
Yes.
They have a campaign. Because the sports lovers what they're supposed to do sometimes, to be very candid, sometimes we have the ideas of these things. If you have money, people that love sports, sometimes you can bring a Chelsea under age players and bring them, fly them in.
Even if you don't fly them in, Pius, they have a huge fan base in this country.
No, I mean the feeder players. Not bringing the bigger ones. You can bring out, they have stages of bring out you can bring the smaller ones, and you say Chelsea is coming. The whole Port Harcourt, the whole Nigeria will shake.
But that's where PPP comes in, because a private person would know how to sell the product he's buying, he's investing in, and then all of this. I hope that whoever is listening to us can bring back sports. Sports was such a beautiful thing growing up in this country.
Okay, look at Joshua. Look at the boxer Joshua. Did you grow up here? No. Okay, look at Smoking Jones that I told you of.
Those are our exports, Nigeria exports, that if they actually put it into good use, they can come up with something better.
What I mean is that Nigerians should grow up and train these people vigorously. Letting people, let it be that it's an industry.
But do you think
where people make money, and the owner of the stadium too will make money.
But sports is a big business. Sports is a money-making business.
We are neglecting it here. Only individuals go for it.
Yeah. Do you think that insecurity could be one of the reasons why the sporting legends, the veterans in sports, the retired sport athletes, because it's not just, we talked about Yobo, we talked about there's Kanu and Ko, for instance, there is
Victor Kweba.
Okay, Brownie Daya is still playing somewhere. There is what's this man's name? JJ Okocha.
Okocha just turned 50 recently.
Yes, and several of these guys who are out there that can actually, get down to get things done. But do you think insecurity is a major concern?
Fine.
If they actually have this idea.
I will support you on that insecurity, because I have gotten experience on that. Like in those days when I was a member of River State Football Association and we are having tournament in Port Harcourt, most of the youth will come and they don't want to pay. And they would like to break their way into the stadium and watch it free. and you have a ticket, you have printed ticket, you ask them to pay, they no. And because of that insecurity, sometimes if they get into the stadium and match is being played and it's not favoring them, they invade the field. Okay. So sometimes people don't want to watch match. You come there to watch match and somebody break your head or somebody wound you and you are maimed. Yes. So element of insecurity is also there. Some elements.
So do you think that
we need to address that?
Sport professionals, especially media practitioners, can begin to look at campaigning for sports development in Africa, in Nigeria and Africa, begin to like have shows and conversation consistently around this? Maybe there could be an opening to bring back the actual sporting life, because we also have our local sports.
Yeah.
The wrestling, the boxing, the local ones, Now that is still not that we've not been able to properly export. So do you think that media campaign by practitioners can go a long way to bring back we talk about sports development and infrastructure development and sporting in Africa?
Let me shock you very quickly. River State has a lot of creeks, water, ocean, and a lot of things like that. That youths can also be practicing swimming. Do you know that there have not been any time that Rivers people have been taking medal in swimming?
You know that so much the resources, financially speaking, is wasting away in this part of the country.
That's what I'm saying. So people will assume that because I'm from River State, I know how to swim well, I'm supposed to know how to swim well, and take a gold medal. But there's never been any time that Rivers people have not seen they can take gold medal in some other areas as well. But in swimming, no. So but the rivers are there, the creeks are there.
What do you think it will take to begin to develop water sports, for instance? Let's even start from there.
Yes, what will take to develop water sports like swimming, boat regatta? In fact, a few days ago, one of my friends just hinted me that he's going to organize boat regatta because it's part of sports too.
Yes.
That is a local one anyway.
Yes.
I used to love, and I'm still keen to love the Opobo people.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that.
Apart from Opobo people, Bodo people have known it. I grew up meeting boat regatta. And then later in the 2020 something, 21, 22, our community was always anchoring this end of year activities, and we infused boat regatta into it. We sold t-shirt to them. It was used to be colorful, and then people learn because it's part of sports.
Yes.
And then you see entertainment growing up there, very fine entertainment. People love it, but I don't know how the thing is fizzling out. So my friend met me recently and said, "Look, Pius, I'm going to bring that sports to bear in." But I said, "Go ahead. If there's any way we can support you, we can." But in respect to this now, we need to have mentorship. Need to have people to groom so that these people can contest and earn money. If you get a gold medal from swimming, if you get a gold medal from boat regatta, if you get a gold medal from any of these, sports activities, you make money very peacefully. And then let me also say to people who are listening, you that know how to fight, you fight on the street, whatever name you call yourself, why not learn boxing? That will make you a superstar and you earn dollars. And people will come and watch you, and the dollars you make exchange, you build houses, and you become a big man and a big woman. Why are you fighting on the street free of charge when people are being paid to fight? And I get mad at people who fight on the street and you break somebody's head. Meanwhile, they are looking for people to break somebody else in an arena, and they pay for you. They pay you. And why are you doing it free of charge?
All right,
so this is a wake-up call for the youth. And then look at your talent as you're growing up. What I don't like, let me also tell you very quickly. One of my friends did a birthday of his son, and he organized golf for little children. I was so happy for what my friend did. Golf players as young as small boys, 8 years, 5 years.
But that's when they start grooming them.
Yes. And he said that is a birthday gift for the friends, the son's friends.
Yeah. That's actually when they start grooming
in a golf
them.
course here in Port Harcourt.
Yes.
I moderated
Speaking of golf is actually one of the biggest sports in Port Harcourt. But I think we'll just get Mr. Cyril here at some point to see. Maybe he can bring more of this conversation. Yeah. It's actually sad to know that there's so much potentials in the sporting business that is going to waste daily in this part of the country.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to look about something else in the news. The National Campaign Council of the People's Democratic Party said the reported reconciliation between Senator Rocha Sokorocha and the Imo State's Governor Hope Uzodinma posed no threat to the chances of the PDP in the forthcoming governorship election. The Campaign Council and Governor of Zamfara State, Dauda, the chairman of the PDP Campaign Council and the chairman of Governor of Zamfara State, Dauda Lawal, said this while answering questions from journalists after the formal inauguration of the council in Abuja on Saturday. In response to a question on the reconciliation between the two All Progressive Congress APC chieftains, Lawal said, you know, Dauda will not be intimidated. I went through that in Zamfara State. Imo is not going to be anything new. As we always say, as a party, we know there will always be issues. What matters is how we resolve them. We are on top of it. I urge the people of Imo to remain resolute. Victory will be ours come November 11, inshallah. Okay, let me also say amen to that. But let's talk about the reality on ground. Now, the Anyanwu PDP demand, I think it's Chris Anyanwu, the one that has the PDP ticket in Imo State. And then I don't know how much he is on ground. But let's talk about the coming together of Rocha Sokorocha and the Jagaban. We're seeing the handwork of the Jagaban here. So finally, Hope Uzodinma and Rocha Sokorocha are now teammates for the APC. Yet, does it exclude the riots in Imo State? Does it exclude the rate of insecurity that has literally chased the people in the state away? Does it include the fact that there are several expectations from a governor's first term that the people are yet to see? Does it exclude every other thing that has happened? We saw how much Mba fought or has been fighting, the new elected governor of Enugu State has been fighting insecurity, making all the moves, pushing and all of that. This we haven't seen from Uzodinma, except that now that he's trying to go in for his second tenure. So I'd like to bring you in here now between the Labour Party in Imo State, the PDP and the APC, and of course ABGA. How much chances do you think the PDP would have against APC for the coming together of Rochas and Uzodinma?
First and foremost, I think in politics, what they always say is a permanent interest. And what is a permanent interest? No permanent enemy. I think, for example, the fact of Uzodinma and Rocha Sokorocha coming together is not a big deal, but you also know that Rocha Sokorocha also have a lot of command, being a former governor, being a former senator, and a business mogul. So that will not also downplay the fact that the two persons are coming together to produce something. However, just like you said, looking at the itineraries of events and activities that have been taking place there, what has Uzodinma done within these 4 years or 3 years and some few months will also speak for itself. There must be record. There must be what the lawyers call res ipsa loquitur. The case speak for itself. And then also coming together vis-a-vis the report of how rooted is labor in that state will also come to play. Labor will also take some chunks of the vote. PDP will take some chunks of the vote. ABGA will take some chunks of the vote. And then the instrumentality of the incumbency will also play. However, we have also seen some places and sometimes when incumbency did not come to play, when they have been uprooted. So by and large, I think it's going to be a very serious reaction, noting that the people from that state will also take a deciding factor, putting in place quickly the forces of security, how the dividends of democracy have been, given to them within these 3.5 years of Uzodinma. The promises, did he actually keep the promises as he made when during the swearing-in ceremony? And we also know the saga of his coming, how a lot of people were worried that he was the fourth, but the court, as the court pleases, as they used to say, made him to be governor with the recalculation and other things that they have done. So it is very important to state that there will be a lot of contention out there, There'll be a lot of fact, there'll be a lot of campaign. But if Rochas have also pinched tent with Uzodinma, I think it's going to be a hard knock to crack, but that will not give them the passport of clearance, because just like you said, the PDP is saying that they will give them hot chase. Not only giving them hot chase, they will give them a good fight, and they are not pet up at all by the coming together of Rochas Golza and Uzodinma, who are old politicians within that hemisphere.
All right,
so I think it's going to be a very crucial event.
All right, thank you very much, Pius. I'll take a short break and we'll come back to you on ATN Sunday.
Every day, our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics.
Nobody's ambition is what they blood.
I have fought very firmly.
Natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
you human trafficker.
Honorable
You are a human
They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
Every day, our lives are changed by history,
We are one people, all of us.
leaders, politics,
Nobody's ambition is what they blow.
I have fought very firmly.
natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing. You human
On the point of order,
Honorable
on them. They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
Every day, our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics,
Nobody's ambition is what the blood.
I have fought a very family.
natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
All right, welcome back to ATN Sunday, everyone. Let's talk about issues around Niger Republic. So, Kathleen Fitzgibbons, the new U.S. ambassador to Niger, has arrived in the capital, Niamey, but will not formally present her credentials due to the current political crisis. The U.S. State Department announced on Saturday that Fitzgibbons' arrival in Niger does not reflect a change in our policy position, but responds to the need for senior leadership of our nation at a challenging time. The State Department spokesman Matthew Miller said in a statement the United States has been pressing for a diplomatic resolution of the crisis that erupted on July 26 when Niger military officers seized power, deposed President Mohamed Bazoum, and placed him under house arrest. Kathleen Fitzgibbons' diplomatic focus will be to advocate for a diplomatic solution that preserves the constitutional order in Niger and for the immediate release of President Bazoum and his family and all those unlawfully detained. The West Africa's main regional bloc on Friday said it had agreed an undisclosed D-Day for a possible military intervention to restore democracy in Niger if diplomatic efforts fail. Kathleen Fitzgibbons is a career diplomat who was confirmed in the post by the U.S. Senate in July, nearly a year after she was nominated. All right, the issues around Niger and then having Kathleen Fitzgibbons' arrival in the midst of all of this crisis. First and foremost, she's a diplomat, like the story said, that was just confirmed in July. That's 1 year after her nomination. Now, one would think that you would bring a more experienced diplomat into Niger to see maybe someone that's been around the African region, that have had some of these experiences, that was able to manage such a similar crisis. And now, or maybe she has, maybe this story didn't give us much of those details. But the question is, what do you think is the U.S. interest in Niger? Remember, they have thousands of military bases They have military base in Niger with about 4,000 military personnel in Niger. They are among those who are demanding for the return of democracy in Niger. In the middle of that, a fresh diplomat is sent into Niger at this particular time with the religious undertone, with the ethnic and every issues around this that seem not to have gone anywhere since July. What do you think she's going to make out of this, and what do you think is the U.S. interest in Niger?
Well, just like you said, U.S. interest is very high demand, not only in Niger, but in so many other parts of the world, because the U.S. always believe in democracy. In fact, that is their form of government. Unlike Russia, who believe in communism, and then other form of government like socialism that is operated some part of the world, there is always the tenets of America hooking up to democracy very seriously. And once they see a depose of government, if you dethrone a democratic government, like it has happened in many places of the world, America will be the first to condemn that, because they see democracy as their brand of government. It's something like a gift. It's something like we have been training you to operate in democracy, because under democracy you have a lot of benefit according to them, even though a lot of African countries who are under democracy have not fully been democratized. That is a story for another day. In talking about what is their interest in Niger, you could also ask the question, what is the interest of Russia in Niger? And then China, what is their interest? What are other people's interest in Africa? And let me also say, in case, one thing with this coup, the coup has also opened a lot of windows for African people to look at the new liberalism, the new colonization that have been taking place within the African sub-region. In as much as people condemn the coup, people are looking at it vividly, that there's an element of the coup plotters thinking that, look, we need to liberate ourselves from colonial mentalism, from, where the foreigners will take all our resources and then they leave us dry. And that is also in the scenario what Bob Marley said many years ago, that the slave mentality. We need to emancipate. Say, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. Bob Marley said that so many years ago, within 1981, and then it's only come to fruition now. However, that caveat does not mean that military coup is something charitable or something that people are applauding. No. Yeah. But under the military coup, the new junta is saying that, look, we have mineral resources, uranium, that people have been taken away. We have been victimized for a long time, and now we want to take back our resources. We want to own our resources. So if you want a power nuclear station, because uranium is being used for power nuclear station to give light to a lot of countries like France and all over. So if you want to use these mineral resources, come to our country and build those plants, build the industry there, and let's all talk business. Unlike, and if you also know, there are a lot of campaign in most of the French colonies where they are supposedly independent countries, but they are still paying tribute to the French government till date. There are research that
but recently
that are on.
I think sometime in February of this year, Macron did apologize. We saw a video, though he was speaking in French, and there was a translation there where he was supposedly apologizing for enslaving Africa, taking so much away from them, and promises being made to return all of this. But the concern we have
they can't return those billions of dollars. Okay. This happens every year. But because why I'm talking, and actually your interference, is that this is something that have been happening. The mineral resources in Africa is so humongous that African leaders didn't even know the benefit. Just like, for example, in Nigeria, the mineral resources in Nigeria is so much that we don't even know the value. So Chinese government come, American government come, French company come and take all and left us dry with environmental degradation, with poverty, with stagnation, economic strangulation, and then we don't realize.
The question
we don't.
The question then.
So the question is the interest of America which I'm telling you now, is the mineral resources and democracy.
Okay.
Enthroning democracy.
Oh, no, hold on. We were taught in social studies in secondary school, junior secondary, as a matter of fact, that democracy is government of the people, for the people, by the people.
Yes.
It didn't say that democracy have to be by civil rule, in that basic definition we're given as children.
Yes.
As we speak in Niger, the threat of ECOWAS to go into with a military force, if they refuse to accept, they've also sent a delegation, which we'll talk about later. But here is the thing. If this is about the government chosen by the people, okay?
No, that is not. Government not chosen by the people. That is not true.
If this is
No, it's not true.
Pius,
I will listen to that analysis.
No. I'm not done. Hold on.
Yes. Let me hold on for you.
I'm
go ahead.
in the background. I want to ask a question.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
If this is about government chosen by the people,
By some people.
You're going, can I finish?
Yes, okay,
can
go
I
ahead.
finish?
Go ahead.
If this is about a government chosen by the people now, and we have a situation in Niger where clearly the military took power forcefully from the supposedly democratically elected governments. If that is the situation we're dealing with, if America is talking about democracy, and that is one of their interests, at least known officially, if that is their interest, if that is the interest of the West, generally speaking, now why is the interest of the people who will determine who rules them not paramount in what America is seeking? Okay. What is the interest of Bazoum and his team who are still being held captive more important than what the people are speaking? Because right now in Niger, the people did not just rejoice when the military took over. That's on one side. As we speak, over the weekend, we learned that they called for the people to come join the military force. Yeah. They had so much volunteers that they had to even stop the recruitment process. Yeah. That again is an indication that the people are more interested in whatever the military is doing, even though it didn't go through the US or the Western defined democratic process. So again, why is the interest of the people of Niger not paramount to the US and the West and other, even African Union and ECOWAS in this negotiation for the return to democracy?
Yes, thank you very much. The spirit behind government of the people, by the people, for the people is the spirit. I'm talking about the spirit now. Is meant or supposedly that you have to stand for election, you have to conduct election, and the people have to appoint you.
Correct.
So that spirit negates one man coming with a gun shot or supposedly putting a gun on your neck and said, get out from this seat or let us get out from the studio. And then people outside will be clapping hands that, hey, thank God that you removed Vivian and Pius because what they were talking, we don't like. People outside who listen to us, who are against some of these things we are saying now, will now be happy because they are the people. That does not mean that because the people are happy, what we were saying here is totally wrong. No. So that group of people, the interpretation, that is why I'm happy when they send Fixibon, because just like you said, Fixibon might have a lot of characteristics.
That we are not.
Fixibon might have a lot of experience. Fixibon is a diplomat, and they are coming, they are sending her. And mind you, is a woman. And women most times in the war front know how to navigate, know how to treat matters. I also know that Abdul Salami has also gone there, and then whether he has come back or not for the peace mission.
He's back.
Yes. So what is the interest is that I know that the American government have also known the signal. You know, there's a signal of joy. There's a signal of, peace and tranquility. Comparing the few days of the military to that of Bazoum that was there and the ministers who were squandering money or whatever. However, if the government of the military continue, very soon the people's voice will be dampened because they will begin to know the characteristics of military, that there are certain things you may not be permitted to say, and then those democratic tenets are crumbled. No elective position, no councillor, no chairmanship, no ministerial. They can do prime minister and some few that. Most of those, their innate right, even right to maybe say something, will also be curtailed. But that they will not show now, because it's like sometimes when a new person's come in and he didn't know the value. That does not, let me say it very emphatically, that does not preclude the maladministration of Bazoum. That does not.
I was coming to
yes,
that.
yes.
Just like on the,
that
on the
does not give
of,
baptism to the fact that if Bazoum did not rule well, that he has done well, that because of democracy, we should allow bad leaders. No. What the military should do very quickly is to run around and know, because of the popularity of the government, and call people, within this short time, can we have election? And turn in another new leaf and look at a better person that can rule, and then so that people can have your say and have your way and do those things, and let us go to the barrack and secure the place. While the military is on, they are bombing aircraft there in that same Niger.
They're bombing aircraft in Niger.
Yeah, we heard that they shot down an aircraft.
That was in Niger State in Nigeria, not in Niger.
Okay.
Some military personnel,
yes.
about 17 or thereabouts, were more Niger military was
yes.
killed by Islamists.
Fine. So you can see some pockets of these extremists working even with the military in power.
Okay, here is another, the reason why I ask you, with the coming of Fitzgibbon, and then with the quest for return of democracy, why is it people's interest not being considered? Then you pointed at the reason why Bazoum was allegedly removed from office by the military. If you look across Africa, the issue of corruption, manipulating the process, where the system favors a few, which is the elites, where you are talking about, for instance, in Nigeria, where you have a situation where the National Assembly, who ought to know, who went there to represent the people and make laws that will impact the lives of the people, end up putting their own interests ahead of the people. Now, if you look at all of these indices and what had happened in Nigeria's election, for instance, and then you ask yourself, if there is a military takeover, if the court, for instance, in Nigeria didn't supposedly give to people what they wanted, whether cancellation or give them whoever they wanted, as per those who claim to be in the majority, if all of these did not take place and then you have the status quo being maintained, if the military should take over in the name of bringing about peace, stabilizing the country, and not letting the country fall into the hands of the international community in terms of forcefully coming in to do whatever they think would bring about peace in Nigeria, for instance, and the people begin to rejoice, are we supposed to be focusing on what the military did or what led to the military taking over in the first place?
In Niger or in...
I'm using Nigeria right now, just like some African countries.
We can use maybe Cameroon as an example.
There is Burkina Faso, there is Guinea, there is Mali.
And then let me also tell you, those countries that the military took over, apart from this sudden Niger now, if you check back those countries, how are they now?
I totally understand that the military, there are good and bad parts of the military, but our interest...
No, let's have a flashback on those countries before Niger.
Can we have a flashback in Nigeria where we had the military regime? Can we go to... Can we talk about Rivers State, for instance?
No,
let's look at Rivers State.
No, for example, during the Babangida administration, during the Abacha administration,
no, but there were military rule before that.
Yeah, but let me take these ones that are very closer.
No, but see, just like we're trying to say that democracy is not totally bad.
Yeah.
Military rule is not totally bad. It has its advantages and disadvantages. But why operate in a way that will give room for the military because of the power of arm to take over democracy? Why is the US not questioning the rot in the African democratic system? Why are they supporting what is seemingly not fair to the African people? Why are they not? Why they are not standing up to check some of these excesses and show that it's about the interest of the people and not their own interests? I started by asking, what is the interest of the US in Niger? And then you pointed that out, personal interest, and of course to promote maintain democracy, and of course the mineral resources in Africa.
And I also bring in Russian interest also there.
Of course,
because they are part of the contenders.
Yes, the East have their interest.
Because we cannot exclude them.
So if we look at all of this side by side and then we ask ourselves the question, this push for the US or the West, as the case may be, or the East, coming from Russia and all of that, is it about the welfare of Africans or is it about their own interests? Can we begin to put all of this side by side?
To be very candid, African leaders have not been fair to themselves. I say that here very emphatically. Reason being that most of them, they don't know why they are on that throne. the maladministration have been so much bad that I cited the example why I was narrating the houses, the former house of Mobutu Sese Seko in Zaire, that have gone to rot and nothing now. You cannot see anything. And that was the house of gold, silver, a lot of busy area, and he was one of the richest man in Africa as of that time, and yet the country was very poor. And then, no matter how a poor African country is, most of their leaders are always amassing in primitive accumulation of wealth. They are always amassing in such that the resources they will take from the land, because they make the people to believe that the African countries is a poor country. We are not a poor continent. In fact, if we know the continent we are, if we know what we have in our resources, under our ground, apart from the crude oil that we are also playing with here, we are toiling with our crude oil from 1958, when oil was discovered in Nigeria, when oil was discovered in the Niger Delta. You can look at the picture of Niger Delta itself. What is it that we have gained from the oil since 1958 in the Niger Delta? No better road, no specialist hospital, no very gigantic educational structure, and then all these things amount to maladministration. And I will now come back again to the issue of European interest, where
that's the thing.
Where when these people lodged money in the account in the Switzerland, in America, in British government, and in the France, they traded with our money and make interest with those monies. Those money looted from African countries, not only Nigeria, from Niger, from Cameroon, from all these countries, and from Congo.
Okay, I have another question. Let's look at the second issue on this. Let's talk about what should we be demanding right now, and what should be the primary interest in all of this. So, a delegation from the Economic Community of West African States has arrived in Niger in a last-ditch effort to peacefully resolve the standoff with the coup leaders in the country. The delegation from the regional bloc arrived in the country yesterday, being Saturday. The coup leaders outside the constitutionally recognized leader, President Mohamed Bazoum, on July 26, and has detained him and other family members since then. The representative from the West African region bloc arrived at the capital, Niamey, and joined efforts by United Nations Special Representative for West Africa and the Sahel region, Leonardo Santos Simao, who arrived on Friday in trying to facilitate a resolution to the ongoing crisis. On Friday, the UN spokesman Stephanie Dujarric said Simao will meet with the junta and other parties to try and facilitate a swift and peaceful resolution to Niger's crisis. What we want to see is a return to the constitutional order. We want to see the liberation of the president and his family and restoration of his legitimate authority. Let me, I'm coming back to you. On Friday, the ECOWAS Commissioner for Peace and Security, Abdel Fattah Musa, said 11 of its 15 member states agreed to commit troops to a military deployment, saying they were ready to go whenever the order was given. Now, here is the thing here. Again, Africans are going through so much. From Nigeria to name the 15 African ECOWAS countries right now, it's only 11 that is available because 4 doesn't seem to be part of this whole thing. Now, Africans are from Niger to Guinea to Mali to Burkina Faso, just name it, to Cameroon, just name it. Africans are going through so much. You just said here, Africa is blessed with several mineral resources. This should be enough to revamp Africa, recreate Africa, bring Africa to be at par with the other parts of the world. The big question then is, in this interest in bringing, because we just read now that they want Bazoum reinstated in his rightful position.
No. I didn't hear Bazoum name. If you want to ask me, you ask me. I did not hear Bazoum.
Let me go back to that.
Yes.
Let me go back to read let me go back to
because
that
I did not hear Bazoum. I hear democratic process.
Let me go back
that
to that.
Does not mean Bazoum.
Let me go back to that story. Can I have that story so that you'll be happy that that was the issue? Okay, we want to see liberation of the president and his family.
Liberation!
Hold on, I'm not done.
Okay.
Liberation of the president and his family.
Go ahead. Are you there? Yeah, I've seen it.
Want to see the return to the constitutional...
Yeah, constitutional order.
Want to see the liberation of the president and his family.
Yes.
And restoration of his legitimate authority.
Yeah.
What is his legitimate authority?
Go ahead, read it.
That's it.
Can
I come in?
Let me interpret what that means.
What is his legitimate authority?
The man is on house arrest, true or false, and members of his family. He has been.
So they talked about his liberation. Liberation of the president, restoration of his legitimate authority. Those are the two things they talked about.
Part of the authority is that he is not free and is under arrest. And the family members are also under arrest.
Let's go back to the story again. Liberation of the president and his family, that's the first request. Yeah. The second one is restoration of his legitimate authority.
Okay.
What is his legitimate authority?
That one now, when they say legitimate authority, that does not translate into the fact that Bazoum will come to office.
Hold on. What then is the issue here?
He is under house arrest.
They talked about his liberation and the restoration of his legitimate authority. What authority did he have in Niger? He was the president.
Fine.
So can I go back to my question?
Yeah,
so we can move on with this.
Ask me.
Now, so they talked about liberation of his family, which they are entitled to.
Yes.
And they talked about the restoration of his legitimate authority.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the issue around that, these stories, whenever they talk about this, has never pointed at there are things the military said this man did.
Yeah.
Can we begin to address that? Nobody is talking about the impact of that action to the people.
Yeah.
It's always about democracy, which no doubt is better than any military rule. We cannot even talk about that.
Yeah.
However, what about the issues that led to the military taking over?
Yeah.
Why is it that the interest of the people, again, what concerns the people, is never important to the West?
Fine. You know, in my earlier statement, there's something that I said here, which I will also reaffirm. In case that there is a government that did not listen to the people, which is supposed to, because the element is government of the people, not so?
Yeah.
And then if you come as a civilian and you now make it government of the few, you are no longer practicing democracy.
Exactly.
So fine, what they can do is that, and that is why you see there's an understanding they are talking there. If they make their own demand.
Yes.
And their own checklist does not mean that everything they said there must be done. So out of two things, they can say, okay, we will take one, we will set him free, we remove him from this, the family will be free. But coming to the office, no. Look at what the people are saying. So how do we replace him? They now bring constituted authority, that same authority. What they are invalidly saying, let me interpret that, returning this authority. That is why I oppose you when you might not physically made Bazoum himself, but if you bring somebody through election,
let's not misquote the
quoted statement. I know now. I am interpreting what the statement.
His.
Listen,
because they're talking about the President Bazoum, restoration of his legitimate authority.
Let's look at what is happening now.
Okay.
There's a crisis, and the people make proposal, and in the proposal,
is it the people or the military?
The military made proposal. Sorry. The American government with the entourage also made proposal.
Yes.
In each of these proposals, each of them will not take 100% now. There's give and take.
No, here is the thing. I'm not even talking about all of that. I'm asking, what is the need for the people? In all of this conversation, we are more interested, military took over. But why did the military take over?
I understand.
Can they begin to help us to address some of these issues, if indeed it's about democracy?
Fine. That is why I said in my statement that they should go back to the people. If, for example, on that checklist, on the checklist, 3 items, they release Bazoum and family.
Yeah.
No problem. The other ones, go back to the people. You ask the people, what did you want with the authority?
Yeah.
The people say, we don't want him again. And they will now constitute a means of making new government. I have been saying it here.
Okay.
And coming among the people that are shouting, and you choose from the people, the people will say, yes, this is people that we love. And under this crisis, the man will know that you are a man or woman of circumstances. When I'm talking about a new president, I'm not saying only a man. A woman can be a president of Niger in case he has all the tenants or what it takes to be. So what I'm saying is that rejoicing, the people rejoicing will mean that you bring the power back to the people again. You can bring the power back to the people. So now what is happening? In negotiating, on negotiating table, just we are now, there's always a Jojo, not war. And in that Jojo, you may not take 100% of your point. I may not take 100. There will be
that's the whole idea of mediation and diplomacy.
There will be a convergence. In that convergence, look at your list. We can do this, we can do this. We cannot do this, we cannot do this. So they come to compromise. And each on compromise, we say, okay, we don't want Bazoum again. Okay, go. Set him free, allow him, maybe let him have the diplomatic freedom to go to any country of the world with his family, whatever. But those, if for example, he has some things that he has looted and he's still within the bank, we say, no, you cannot go with that. You cannot go, it's still the property of the Niger Republic.
So if ECOWAS, who is in Niger right now, goes and they are not looking at how this impacts the people, for instance, and they are more interested in the democracy return, release of President Bazoum, or returning him back his authority, do you think anything will come out of this negotiation?
Fine, let me answer you very quickly. I know critically within that ECOWAS mission and all the entourage, all of them will not like bad governance.
So there's hope somewhere.
There's some element of people who love good governance. And in the deciding factor of what should happen, and because the ultimate aim here, let us also preach, is very true. The ultimate aim is not to rejoicing without peace and tranquility, then there is nothing. No matter what type of government you want to bring, communism, oligarchy, democracy, whatever, aristocracy, if there is no peace in that country, all is meaninless.
All right.
It means that that is a government of force, fiasco, destruction, and then crisis, and nobody will support that.
All right, let's come back to Nigeria. Let's wish ECOWAS and Niger junta the very best and hope that something good comes out of all of this.
Yes, they should not do anything that will boil the country there. Nobody.
We'll keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best. So hundreds of Nigerian Boko Haram terrorists who are being held at Hajj camp in Borno State after surrendering rioted over 30,000 allowances promised by government. The ex-militant blocked the Bulukutu Maiduguri highway, creating gridlock and tension among residents in the area. Reacting to this, Professor Usman Tar, Commissioner for Information and Internal Security, said that biometrics for repentant insurgents resumed after the incident. He said with normalcy restored, officials of Borno state government have resumed the biometrics data capture of repentant Boko Haram insurgents, while a total of 6,900 repentant insurgents are processed under the multi-agency framework of the disarmament, demobilization, de-radicalization, rehabilitation, reconciliation and reintegration, otherwise known as the Borno model. The data processing processes was scheduled to be conducted in 6 batches by a certified team of intelligence and ICT experts with utmost level of professionalism and confidentiality in data management. The Borno state government wishes to assure the public that the situation is under control and normalcy has been restored at the venue of the biometric exercise. The process of reintegration stretches out from the mobilization and the armament and the disarmament and what have you. Now, the point where they decided to block the road in protest brings the question, how much control does the government of Borno State have over this individual? If in the name of being a repentant Boko Haram or insurgent, you still cannot find a way to act in decorum in accordance to what is expected, how much repentance are we looking at here, and how much control do you think the government of Borno State have over these people?
Yeah, my fear is that most time Borno is in the world map. If you are not hearing of Boko Haram, you're hearing of extremists. You're hearing, in fact, that was the first state that talked about in the days of Obasanjo, the Sharia. the enthronement of Sharia with Modu Sharif as the governor then. So it is a state that there are a lot of youth restiveness, and they have been growing over years and turned to gangsalism and turned to people on the highway, expressing all types of manners which are not conducive to what we are thinking now. So just like your fears too, I'm also worried about bringing people who supposedly supposed to be under fear and gripping them. They are now hostile and coming to the road to demonstrate after just few hours of being baptism under the name of repentance. So most of these things, the way I guess, is like it's a political repentancy, and because it's political repentancy and they heard that there's money attached to it, with the austerity, with the scarcity of funds, with paucity of things, and the food insecurity in the country, who will not accept that is a militant there? Who will not accept that is part of it? Who will say that I was not a member? But I want them to use this opportunity. If they were able to mop out the guns, the AK-47, the shotguns, the artillery, whatever weapons that they were holding, let them also question them. How did you get this weapon in the first place? Let us not run away from that. In the whatever Bronu model they are saying, Bronu model, rehabilitation, reconciliation, all these shon, all those big grammars. In any of these cases, can they have closed door meeting with those guys? How did you get your weapon? Is it traffic from Niger? Is it from Libya? Is it from Egypt? How did you get your weapon? Who do this gun running? So that next time we put our eyes on in most of these cases. Not that people will just jump up because they hear 30,000 and tomorrow they will go back and waylaying people again and start in that old model. And what are you doing to engage them? Are you engaging them after paying 30,000 and live on the streets? And they will become another heavy nuisance, now breaking houses and begin to do much better. I am not against somebody who think that he want to repent. Like Paul repented before. The first time when Paul repented, the people of Jerusalem then were apprehensive. Paul, you come to kill us again? He said, no, I'm not that type of person again. No. I'm a brand new person. I will follow and fight for Jesus Christ. I will subject I have already subject myself. But this type of people, will they follow the Paul mentality in this Bible, in the scripture? I know they are Muslim, so they will not be able, maybe some of them may not know this example I'm giving. Yeah. But there will be a closer example like this in the Quran, because Quran, according to those who have read it, say it's for peace. That is the first thing that the Quran preach. So how come that when people said that they have repented, and then the first demonstration, you block the whole street, you barricade areas, and you are making this? So I think government to put an eyes on them, making sure that they curtail, they withdraw all the weapons, and then also interview them.
All right.
Have a closed door meeting with them and let us know where the weapon was coming from, so that we can now have an element of information and knowledge, so that this thing will not happen the next time.
All right, we hope and wish the people of Borno the very best in the Borno model of reintegration of repentant Boko Haram members or insurgents. All right, Nigerian Bar Association has set up a committee to probe allegations of sexual assault against the suspended Dean of the Faculty of Law, University of Calabar, Professor Cyril Ndifon. The investigative committee comprises the NBA First Vice President, Linda Rose Bala, Assistant General Secretary Daniel Cape, Chairperson of NBA Women's Forum, and the Chairman of the NBA Calabar branch. Also, the association filed petitions against the suspended Resident Electoral Commissioner of the Independent National Electoral Commission in Adamawa State, Hudu Yunusa Ari, and the young lawyer of Abat branch, widely known as the baddest lawyer on social media. Her real name is Ifunanya Excel Grant. What Yunusa Ari was petitioned over his role in illegally declaring the results of the supplementary 2023 governorship election in Adamawa State, as votes were still being counted. The complaint against Ms. Ifunanya centered on her social media notoriety of posting pictures and videos of herself unclad and smoking marijuana. NBA's National Publicity Secretary Akerede Habib Lawal, in a statement, disclosed that the decision was reached by the National Executive Committee of the body at her recent monthly meeting, presided over by its president Yakubu Chonoko Michael, and attended by all national officers. Let's start from the Unical incident.
Yeah,
You're familiar with that, yes?
Because I was beginning to ask you that the two stories are infused.
The three, actually.
Put together.
Yeah, it's a panel they set up to investigate all
the
issues.
things. So,
but let's start from the one of Unical.
Yeah, first of all, let me comment.
Here is why that story is very particular. It's not just because it's females who are being molested by the said lecturer. Unical has suspended him from all of official activities until investigation, but removed him from the school premises. Yeah. However, is that enough? What are your expectations from this committee being set up by the NBA right now to investigate this? What are your expectations if he is found culpable?
Yes. First of all, before I answer you, let me digress a little. I want to thank those students for speaking out. There are many people in the Nigerian universities today, all over Nigeria, that refuse to speak out. Even not in the university, even in the secondary school, teachers are molesting a lot of young girls. Their fellow students are molesting them. They are not speaking out. And that is the problem of the girl child. When you don't speak out, you continue to die in silence. You continue to have the perpetrators doing all manners of harm on you. So I want to commend the students who actually come together, because some of them will have been afraid that if we cannot, withstand this thing, the man will, in case they will fight back, in case we will not, we'll lose our grip, and they will be punished. But those guys come together and chant and chant and chant. So that is one on that side. Please let other girls and other boys take a cue from what happened in the University of Calabar. Wherever you are, secondary school is not left out. Primary school is not left out. This is the time to speak out. Thank you on that one. Secondly, on the issue of the panel, and if the story, for example, the panel did not look at it very properly, I think the panel members are very reputable lawyers.
So what are the expectations?
The expectation is that justice should be done, and that expectation should not be cut short. And what do I mean by justice should be done? If the evidences are overwhelmed, like what the lawyers used to say, beyond reasonable doubt, there is no iota of the fact that you will remove when evidence is too overwhelmed against the person and you downplay it. I'm happy that there is no way the person will overwhelm the panelists. The panelists will do their work, and no bribery, no corruption, because the panelists will also prove to NBA that, look, we have done the message very well, so you can still send us. However, we will be on the watch, and their own name is at stake also. That is what I think I want to say around the University of Calabar incident.
Now, there is that of Yunusa Ari, the Adamawa State Rec, who went against the norm to announce Aishatu Binani as the governor of Borno State. And there is that of the younger lawyer. She calls herself Baddest Lawyer. She goes about, her pictures are all over social media, unclad, smoking marijuana, making all kinds of unethical excesses for someone who identifies as a lawyer. So there's been a lot of call to debar her, and she cannot be a lawyer while she's bringing disrepute to the organization, and that's of Yunusa Ari, if you can. Yeah,
let me combine the two of them very quickly. I think even the first instance, most of us have passed through student union elections. I know I was once North president in the then College of Art and Science so many years ago. And then when an election have not been properly conducted and concluded, you cannot see a self-acclaimed person, or maybe the electoral body will announce somebody from there. That is against the norms. And that is the element of democracy that we are talking about. We begin to democratize everything, not only at the presidential level, but at school level, at even family level, democracy seems to take place. Because part of democracy is that even in the family, if you want to do election, you can allow the other person to talk Talking is part of democracy. So I think that person have fouled the law. You announce the person without the norms, how INEC used to conduct their election, he should go in for it. If there's any law that states that he will go to prison or will go to jail or whatever thing that he should face it, he knew. But I know, maybe he's alleged. I'm alleging that he has been overwhelmed by maybe bribery and corruption. That's why he told the person, don't worry, I can announce the result. I'll call newsmen and announce it, and maybe he become one day governor. Unfortunately, it was not one day because they didn't swear the person in. So he has collected the money. I will not say let him return the money to the owner of the money who bribed him. He can eat the money, but let him face the penalty. Number two, that lawyer, supposedly, even for example, you a lawyer having a guy name, having a nickname all over. First of all, I personally, as a man who preached integrity, I am querying that first of all. Secondly, you pose yourself and have to bring picture of smoking element. We don't know what you're smoking anyway.
Marijuana.
But in the picture, they find out that it is, something that you don't supposed to take, which the law of the land abhorred. Smoking marijuana or whatever name they call it. Some call it Indian hemp, some call it marijuana, some call it this. For you to do that, in fact, you have bring the law profession to a public domain, which you supposed not to be part of them again. Because as a lawyer, you're supposed to be an ambassador of that your profession. Even myself, that is not a lawyer, there are things that I think that the lawyers are supposed to do, which is part of their modus operandi. It's part of their code of conduct. Every profession has their code of conduct. Just like we are talking here, the journalists have their code of conduct. So why will such a person be in that capacity? You are promoting yourself and giving smoke and not even considering the cigarettes you are promoting. That is another law. Because the law of the land also look at not allowing people or allowing smokers in some certain part of the country. And a lot of people who have died of smoking too, you are also promoting smoking.
Okay, now let's look at this real quick. Nigerian Association of Professional Women Engineers on Saturday appealed to President Tinubu for the opportunity for female engineers to fix Nigeria's moribund refineries. The newly elected Apuen Lagos chapter chairman, Mrs. Atinuke Owolabi, made the call at the association's public lecture and annual general meeting in Ikeja. Owolabi, who is a fellow of the Nigerian Institution of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, promised that her administration would focus on mentorship and skill development for young engineers. She further assured that all women engineers are ready to come together and see how they can prefer solutions, making sure that they revamp these refineries. So we call on our president to challenge female engineers to revamp and rehabilitate these refineries. And I want to assure you that within a year, just challenge us. We will make sure that the refineries will be put to operation by the grace of God. Okay, now, of course, I understand the grace of God. We are nothing without God's grace and his mercy is quite all right. But we are talking about fixing the refineries. It's a technical thing. It's a more mechanical, if you may. Now, and then we're expected to we have the expertise. We have this, and this is what we can do, and this is how we can do it. Yeah. But again, because they are females, female engineers, do you think that if we try the female engineer, we could actually have our refineries working in a year, like she said?
I want to believe that the female engineers, they are human beings. So, first of all, you ask me, are they not human beings? They are human beings. So I don't want to come out from the premises of because they are female. I would have wished whether a male engineers come together and say enough of these moribund refineries. But for the female to come together and said, Mr. President, give us this opportunity, let us work on these things. Because there are a lot of perceive ideology that the refineries are not actually done, that it could be like sabotage. There are perceived allegedly sabotage situation around our 4 refineries. And that is why people are querying. Most of the oldest refinery in the world is still working. Romania has refinery within the 1850 thereabouts that was open. So many other refineries that are very old, more than Nigerian refineries, but are still working. And that is why people are suspecting that it could be that Nigerian refineries are just because of politics, that they know Nigerian government will bring money and they will share the money. In fact, sometimes an engineer will lose something and he can call a name and write to the Aso Rock and say the refinery need propeller masquerade machine. It can be imported from India, or the Chinese government is the only person that can bring that this. So government will foolishly pay them. This is not the first time. Turn around, and they turn around the maintenance into their pocket. Okay. During the Obasanjo, it was so. Let them allow these women to do. Maybe what women are looking for is probity and accountability.
All right, I just want to quickly throw this open to you. President Barrow of Gambia has suspended himself and government officials from foreign trips. If this becomes a reality in Gambia, do you think that other African countries should also emulate this as an example?
Yeah, it also depends on why he suspended himself from foreign trips. Maybe most of the foreign trips have been a jamboree. And that is why most of African countries, when they go to foreign trips, while the seminar is on, they are in where they are shopping. They are in shopping complex, they are in restaurants, they are playing in hotels. They don't want to. I went on a seminar in Ghana, maybe 1 or 2 years ago, on the environment. And I was in that conference, and the president of Ghana, the current president of Ghana, Kufo, came there, and other former president of Ghana. And I know how much wealth and knowledge I gathered from there. But most time we have discovered that a lot of Nigerians and African country men and women who travel out for seminar go there for just sightseeing. They will not participate in the seminar. So if that type of seminar is the one that the president is suspending himself and members, it is good. Let him be on suspension and look inward in Africa.
All right, thank you, Pius Duko, for being part of ATN Sunday. It's always an honor to have you once again. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you one more time, and you're welcome too.
And thank you everyone that's been our show today. Enjoy the rest of your day.